Hello, everyone. Welcome to Trauma Recovery University. I am your host, Athena Moberg, and my amazing co-host, Bobby Parrish, is right there.
Hi, everybody. We're so happy that you're here tonight.
We are so excited. We have, as you know, we have our multiple Twitter chats every week, and we have our live Google Hangouts on air, our YouTube channel, our Roku channel, which is fully live right now, and we have people.
Yay!
We have people communicating with us from Roku and sending us emails, and I want to specifically thank the people that are watching us on Roku and sending us emails and following us on Twitter and reaching out. And you are part of our newest members of our family. And so we're really excited about you. If you are listening on a podcast platform such as iTunes or Spreaker or Stitcher or SoundCloud or iHeartRadio, we want to give you a very, very special welcome and invite you to go to our website and watch us, since we talk with our hands, download our printable one-page resources, and we also invite you to watch our videos should you decide you want to see what we look like or what have you, if you're just listening to our voices. And just as a thank you to each and every one of you for being one of our loyal listeners or subscribers or viewers, we have provided free of charge, this is just our gift to you for being here, you can have our complete access to our library of downloadable resources by going to traumarecoveryuniversity.com and click on the button that says Downloadables. You can also go to nomoreshameproject.com and click on Downloadables, and you'll be given, like I said, complete access to our entire library of downloadable one-page resources. And just so that you understand what these resources are, you can print them, make a notebook. Each and every week, we come to you every single week live, unedited, and we provide a one-page downloadable resource that matches up with the topic that we are discussing that day. So today's topic is sibling sexual abuse. And we are right on the cusp of having our chat with our UK friends this morning. It's morning our time on Mondays, and it's actually evening on Monday evenings. And I also do want to say a very special welcome to our UK friends and family that are watching live. It is 2 in the morning, and we're glad you're here. We always want to give you a very special shout out. It's unbelievable that you're here at 2 in the morning. I don't know if I could make that type of, commitment. Seriously, I'm not awake at 2 in the morning. So without further ado, I would like to turn our broadcast over to the amazing Bobby Parrish, and we're going to just discuss the way our chat went today, and we're going to dive into some content on our one-page resource. And I do also want to give a very special welcome to our growing family of listeners with 1412 Radio Network, which is made possible by Two Guys and a Bible. So we are growing, everyone, and it is very, very exciting. And so thank you, and Bobby, take it away.
Hey, everybody. We've been wanting to talk about sibling sexual abuse for a while, and people have told us that it's a topic that they want and need to have covered. But other survivors are like, didn't even know that happened. Not part of my experience. Yeah, really don't need that. But we know there's a community out there of people that need to hear this, that need some information, and that need some tips on how to cope and how to help. This morning in our Twitter chat, we had many new faces, people who came specifically because of the topic. We start tweeting about the topic about 4 days ahead of time, but if you go to our Google page at any time, our Google Plus page, you can see what topics we're going to cover for the next couple of weeks, and sometimes even through the next month. And so we had a collection of people who had never been to our chat before who came to talk about their experience, and it was very eye-opening and very heartbreaking. One of the people that we came who spoke a great deal about her personal experience, she was sexually abused by one of her brothers. There was another gentleman there who had 2 children that was in the middle of a criminal inquiry over sexual abuse between siblings. And he was talking about how hard it was to watch his children go through that and them have to be deposed and, go through the whole experience all over again in a deposition. So even though this may not apply directly to you, we know that it applies to some people, and they are deeply, deeply in need of some information because it is not talked about. We talked this morning about how it's a taboo, and it is. Any kind of sexual abuse is a taboo. We don't want to dismiss that, particularly any kind of incest within the family, or when you're involving someone who is supposed to be a safe person, like a priest. All sexual abuse is a taboo topic that's difficult to talk about. But when you get down into that narrow scope of sibling sexual abuse, it seems to have its own heavy curtain of taboo and stigma that leaves not very many people talking about it and acknowledging that it happens every day. And so we really want to bring that out in the open, and we're going to talk about it tonight. And then we have another Twitter chat tomorrow, so if you're watching us tonight, know that we're going to talk about this tomorrow again at our #SexAbuseChat, and that's Tuesday evenings at 6 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, or 2 a.m. in the UK, so if you're one of our UK followers. So we've put together this one page of information.
Yeah.
Do you think that kind of summarized a little bit of the experience that we had today in chat? It was very different today.
Yeah, it was. And I wanted to remind everyone, by the way, if you are watching live and following us along, we do have our hashtag, No More Shame. And we have our feed. If you want to go to bit.ly/trauma recovery U and watch us live right there on our page, right below the screen will be a Twitter stream, and you can tweet us, follow along, interact with us, ask us questions, say hello, let us know you're out there. And I also, Bobby, I do want to touch on something that you mentioned, and I wanted to
Absolutely.
agree with you. I know that I learned today that there are several different types of sibling abuse, and it's not like it's a news flash, like I didn't already know that, but the actual topic of sibling sexual abuse, I didn't realize that there were so many people out there. And as I was reading through our Twitter stream during our chat, I actually started remembering friends, loved ones, colleagues, and clients that had brought up this specific topic, and I think I had mentally sort of grouped it together with all sexual abuse. I didn't actually compartmentalize it out into sibling sexual abuse. Off the air, when we were in the green room, I was mentioning to Bobby, I know that you're getting ready to pull up the one page. I was just going to talk briefly, Bobby.
No, please do.
I was telling Bobby when we were in the green room earlier that I have a dear friend of mine that I've known almost my entire life. And there are siblings, and one of the siblings is special needs, and the older sibling is not special needs. Well, the older sibling was sexually abusing the younger sibling for years and years and years and years and years. And it came out, and it devastated the family, and it's just horrific. It was just really, really heartbreaking. And this is a family that I'm very, very close with. And then I also started to remember, ever since I became a trauma recovery coach and started focusing, my coaching modality in sort of the area of trauma, which is where my heart is, obviously, I started doing a little bit of a catalog while we were talking this morning, Bobby.
Yeah.
I have a colleague / friend of mine that I've known for about 10 years now, and she was actually sexually abused by her brother as an infant, from the time she was an infant all the way up until she was about 8 or 9 years old.
Wow.
Um, and it was just, I started remembering these different instances today when we were discussing the topic of sibling sexual abuse. So
Yeah.
um, I know that this is not a happy, joyful topic, everyone, and something that this is rather painful to talk about. And we just want you to know that even though Bobby and I may not have had siblings that sexually abused us, we do have we do have experiences with siblings that were unpleasant, or perhaps they um, facilitated the abuse, or looked the other way, or minimized, or we've mentioned on several other broadcasts that when sexual abuse is present, it rarely comes alone. It usually brings its friends, like
Right.
mental, emotional, verbal. There are every different flavor of abuse possible, usually comes right along with sexual abuse. So um, we invite you to continue to watch the broadcast and share this video with someone you know that may have gone through something like this. And if you're watching on Roku, we're so grateful for you. You're a brand new part of our family, and we would love for you to tell someone about our Roku channel. And thank you for all those people out there that are rating our Roku channel. We have like all these people that have rated us, and we're at like 4.5 out of 5 stars. I had no idea. So
Wow.
little bit of a tangent there, sorry, but I just realized I forgot to thank you guys for that. But Bobby, yeah, I was really heavy-hearted during chat this morning. It was just so painful. I don't know what it is that is so different when you discuss the fact that it's a sibling. I think for me, like just trying to pull it apart a little bit and analyze why it was that I felt so much heavier hearted than I normally do. And I think it's because when you think about siblings, you think of someone who's like maybe like your best friend or your comrade or your confidant or someone you can trust or someone that you play with, and that's like they're part of your lifelong circle of like supposedly safe people. I
Yeah.
mean, there's just like almost like a presupposition of safety when you talk about a sibling.
And I agree. And I think one of the pieces, one of the elements that is so hard is that both the perpetrator and the victim are children.
Yeah.
And that makes it very hard. When it's an adult, when you have a child versus an adult, it's very easy for us to look at that adult and go, oh, you're responsible, it's your fault, you're horrible. But when you look at, say, a 6-year-old and an 8-year-old, and one is the victim and one is the perpetrator, it's really hard to look at an 8-year-old and declare them awful and declare them, as the
Abuser.
bad guy, right? um, Especially when they're both, and I see this and I saw this morning in the chat, especially if you're the parent, and I'm sorry, I keep I'm wobbling my camera here, especially if you're the parent or a family member, an aunt, uncle, grandparent. These are both your children. You love them both dearly. Now, one is obviously hurting the other, and so you can't allow that to happen, but you can't abandon the child who's doing the harming either. You can't just say, okay, well, you did this terrible thing. Whoops, you're out. Um, it has so many layers and layers of responsibility and conflict in loyalty and conflict in love and conflict in care. Um, that and it involves children, that it's a lot harder to sift through. And I think one of the most difficult um, issues that we face is determining, first of all, what's quote unquote typical sexual exploration, not sexual exploration. Wow, I really want to back out of that one. What's typical body exploration that children do, and what's sexual abuse? So I'm going to pull up the one page because I found a wonderful quote that I think defines the whole matter of what's abuse and what's just normal exploration. So I've got the one page up there. You should see it on your screen now, saying
I
sibling.
do.
Yay! Um, okay. Sibling sexual abuse, and if you look at it, it's the first bullet point underneath the larger text that says, in order to determine what is typical and what is sexual abuse, we found a definition that we think outlines the difference well. Sexual behavior between siblings that is not age appropriate, not transitory, okay, so it's not something that just happened once. It's usually a pattern of behavior, and it's not motivated by developmentally mutually appropriate curiosity. So when it goes over into the area of abuse is when the behavior is overtly sexual. Okay, children have a natural curiosity about their bodies, but it's not limited simply to their sexual organs. They want to know how their noses work, how their ears work, you know, what do their toes do? What can you do to your toenails that doesn't hurt? I mean, they want to know all this stuff. Why do you look different than I do? So normal body exploration covers the whole body, not just the sexual organs. So when you see a child who is focused on what would normally be exclusively sexual, parts of the body engaged in sexual activity, and even more so when they seem to be engaged in touching that we normally see as sexually oriented, that's when it starts to fall over into abuse. When it becomes a pattern, it falls over into the abuse category. When it is not consensual, it falls over to the abuse category. When one of the two children doesn't want that, they don't touch me that way. I don't want to be touched like that. Stop. And keeping in mind that children, when they're younger, they don't always have the appropriate words. They can't always say, when you touch me that way, I don't like it. Just the simple of stop, no, are perfectly okay ways for them to ask for someone not to touch them like that anymore.
Yeah.
So again, when it's sexual in orientation, it's not age appropriate. Okay, it's not age appropriate for two 14-year-olds to be exploring each other's bodies. That is not normal exploratory child curiosity. It's just not. For that, we're talking about 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 kinds of ages. When they start, when they're in puberty and beyond, no, that's not age appropriate anymore. And one thing that I think another thing that makes it difficult, and I'm going to stop screen sharing here for a minute if I can find the button to push. Yay, I did it. I think another thing that makes this a difficult topic to talk about, and people talked about this in chat this morning, is because very often when children are 6, 7, 8 years old, and they are interacting with another child in a way that adults specifically can identify as very sexualized, to me, the first thought that goes through my head is to secure the child, the victim, so that they're safe. And the next thing that goes through my head is, where did the perpetrator learn that behavior? Because children don't learn sexual behavior at 5 or 6 years old unless they have seen it, unless they have witnessed it, unless it has been done to them. So maybe they have been exposed to pornography. Maybe they're being abused. Very often children at that young age who are perpetrators are also victims. And so it makes it really hard to just brush the whole thing with black and white like we can with adults. Even if an adult was sexually abused as a child, it is clearly not okay for them to do that to a child. When you have two children involved and one of them is being abused, raped, fondled at home, and then they act out and they engage in that same behavior with a sibling, is help needed? Is intervention needed? Is punishment needed? You know, it's really hard to punish a child who is doing what they learn to do. And that, I think, is one of the reasons why it becomes a very sticky wicket in this area.
I do agree that it's very sticky, but I also feel like as a parent, and this goes back to what we've discussed on several other broadcasts, and that is we are not fully engaged, when we are distracted, when we use iPads and video games as babysitters, when we are careless in our parental duties. I feel that the propensity for things like of this nature to happen is drastically increased. And I'm not saying that if you're a parent that uses your iPad to distract your child for a while so you can do the dishes, I'm not saying that that's bad and that you're a horrible parent. You guys know who I'm talking about. You know that I'm talking about parents that spend several hours a day allowing their children to either arrive, get the key from under the mat, go inside, fix food for themselves if there is food, sit down, watch TV, and then hopefully later on at night the parents will come home and the child's been alone for 10 hours. You know, that's just clearly not okay. And when children are left to themselves, they're going to learn things that other children that have the attention of loving, caring adults that are not practicing absenteeism or neglect or distraction. I think that that's something that comes into play here, Bobby. I mean, would you or would you not agree?
I agree. I mean, children need to have adequate and appropriate supervision at all times so we know if things are like that are happening so they don't become that pattern that we talked about in terms of defining what constitutes sexual abuse.
Yeah.
You know, it's interesting. I have probably one of the most heartbreaking stories I've ever heard from a parent in terms of they're feeling responsible and guilty about their child being sexually abused. She and her husband went with their children to a friend's house, and they wanted to hang out with their friends, and they wanted their children, to engage with the other friends' children and just kind of go off and play by themselves and not bother them as adults because they felt like they really needed this downtime. And the child, one of the younger children, kept coming and saying, you know, Mom, this is happening. Mom, that's happening. Mom, this is happening. And she just kept saying, you know what, don't bug me. I'm trying to have a relaxing evening here. Just go back and, you know, do what you're supposed to do. And the child came to her, I don't know, the fifth or sixth time, and she finally said to the child, look, if you come back here one more time and interrupt me, you are going to be in some serious trouble. So I recommend you don't do it. So the child went back, engaged with the other siblings, and was raped by one of the other children, not her sibling, but one of the other children at the gathering. And this mother carried the most incredible guilt and shame. I worked with her child for probably about 1.5 years doing play therapy and helping her, but I also worked with the mom. Should she have carried some guilt? Probably so. But when I think that's another reason why this whole topic is so hard, because parents blame themselves, carry some blame, carry some shame. We need to supervise our children. We need to be there. We need to be present. We need to be watching. But we also need time to ourselves. We need to be able to do the dishes. We need to be able to do the laundry. Again, it's so multifaceted, so many layers. and so many people who end up getting hurt.
Yeah. I don't think that there are any hard and fast rules to, um, you know, I feel like family dynamics are such where different families have different levels of interaction.
Right.
And, like I was saying earlier, allowing your children to be on the iPad so that you can do the dishes doesn't constitute neglect or
No.
absenteeism.
No,
You know,
absolutely not.
that's not what we're saying here. you know. But, I've talked with a lot of parents. I mean, prior to doing trauma recovery coaching, I was really working with some single moms and, again, there's a whole nother layer when you're talking about a single parent situation here. And especially if there's more than one child. It's like you only have two arms and two legs. You can only be in one place at once.
Right.
So it it is a difficult topic, Bobby. This topic of sibling sexual abuse, and I'm not blaming the parents out there that are not there enough or what have you. They probably do enough of that themselves. But
Yeah.
I mean, if you are a parent and perhaps your child was just born and perhaps you're watching this video for a reason, maybe just knowing that these types of things exist will now forever help you to understand what's possible. And, maybe this video that you're watching now is maybe it's helping just one more kid not be involved in some sort of sibling sexual abuse, and that's our hope. That's our goal. So, and we want people to know that have been involved in sibling sexual abuse, whether it's your children, your friends' children, or whether you are that sibling and you were the perpetrator or you were the survivor that was sexually abused by a sibling. You know, we're not passing judgment on anyone here, and we just want you to know that you're welcome and that we're glad you're here. We're glad you're watching, and we feel that you're here for a reason. And we really just want to provide a place for people that is a safe place for them to learn about topics like this and get educated on topics and be able to walk away with a little bit more knowledge and foresight into, a situation that can be avoided.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I think it goes back to what we talk about a lot as parents. How do we protect our children from being sexually abused? We have open lines of communication with our children. We let them know that, we talk about their bodies with them. We use the names of the body parts, appropriate ones, instead of slang. They know they can come talk to us about anything. And we make it all okay. It's okay to talk about difficult things. It's okay to talk about hard things. You're not going to get punished for bringing up thoughts or feelings that maybe the rest of the world doesn't see as okay. The doors are always open. Those lines of communication are open. And I think sometimes that's the best thing that we can do to protect our children from harm. We can't be with them 24/7, but we can be available for them 24/7. That they can contact us. I don't care if they, talk to their teacher at lunch and say, something terrible just happened. I really need to talk to my mom. Whatever that is, they need to know that we're the one right, good, safe place they can always come to talk about whatever they need to talk about.
Yeah. I
And that's
love
the
the
best,
way you said that. I
you
love the
know.
way you said that. Yeah, definitely, Bobby. I mean, I think when we become that safe place for our children, I remember my son saying to me one time when he was in I think he was in sixth grade, and he was discussing some sexual things with me, some questions he had. And I was honest with him, and he said, Mom, thanks so much for being real and for being honest with me about that. You really didn't need to be, but you did, and I'm really appreciative. Like, you could have made something up like most of the other parents do. So I just won't ever forget that conversation. I mean, that was many, 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 many years ago. That was like 10, 15 years ago by now. But I'm telling you, those choices that you make to be that one person that's safe, that is always honest with your kids, even if it's a little awkward to talk about, they're going to remember that forever, and that's going to go a long way. And they're probably going to be parents that are communicative and open and honest and approachable because you've set that example for them. So,
Yep, exactly.
yeah.
Exactly. So if we can advise anything in terms of parenting and sexual abuse, I think that's the number one thing, is be safe, be available, be approachable, be willing to talk about anything at the drop of a hat.
Even if it is their sibling that may be touching them inappropriately.
Yes, exactly. Ooh, oh, no.
What
I was
happened?
trying to get the one page back up, but it was jumping around on me. It was really funny. I felt like I had to catch it, you know?
Yeah.
It's like some bizarre computer game. Okay, so we talked about the definition. We talked about how children are naturally curious. They're going to explore their body. If put in the bathtub with another child who's the same age as they are but a different gender, they might very well go, hey, how come he's that way and I'm this way? That's not sexual abuse. And that's the time to have honest and frank discussions about your children. Well, you know, this is that. This is that. This is what we call them. These are their names. This is what they do. You know, of course, in an age-appropriate way. We found a few statistics about sibling sexual abuse, and they indicate that in between 2 to 4% of sibling relationships, sexual abuse occurs. Okay, so between 2 and 4 out of every 100 children who has a sibling, sexual sibling abuse happens. But I think that it's realistic to say that that's probably underreported. I really do think that's probably underreported, and we talked about that in chat this morning. Plus, we want to make sure that you know that sibling abuse doesn't just cover blood-related siblings, you know, either full blood or, you know, half siblings. It also covers step siblings. It also covers foster siblings. We heard this morning during chat multiple people talking about how they were abused within the foster care system. And I know there is a huge inquiry right now going on over in the UK, and some of the people who were at the chat this morning are survivors of all of the abuse that took place in the care homes, in the care system. That's what they call it. And it's horrible. The place where you're supposed to go to be safe becomes just another ring of hell, and it's so wrong. But we want to make sure that you understand that sibling sexual abuse does not apply simply to full-blood sibling relationships.
Yeah,
And
it
yes,
can definitely be step siblings.
right.
And we even, like Bobby was saying earlier, we ventured to even discuss foster siblings, or people that you grow up with in foster care.
Right. And I think more than other kinds of sexual abuse, children are minimized when they report sexual abuse by a sibling.
Yeah.
They're told, oh, all kids do that. He's just playing with you. Now, I know we've talked before about minimization when it comes to a child reporting sexual abuse by an adult relative. And yes, we get minimized too. And they do say, oh, never mind, that's just Uncle Joe, that's his way. But I think with children, there is more of a propensity to dismiss it as normal childhood behavior. And that's why we gave you the definition, because we really need you to be aware of what is normal childhood behavior and what is not. But it's also okay if a child comes to you and they're saying, you know, my brother is touching me in this way and I feel bad about it. there's a big old red flag for you to take it seriously. When your child comes to you and they report uncomfortable, they're uncomfortable with something one of their siblings is doing, you need to address that, even if it doesn't quote unquote qualify as abuse. If the child is uncomfortable, you as their parent are responsible for making the situation comfortable again for them. Whether it's, I don't like to be tickled, I don't like to be wrestled with and have my face smushed down in the dirt, all those things that when a sibling does it to another sibling, and the child doesn't want it, they're uncomfortable with it, it's our job to intervene. Does that make sense, Athena?
Yeah, absolutely, it makes sense.
So another area where we see a lot of challenges is that the child who is victimized is often seen as part of the problem.
Yeah, and this is a really touchy topic as well, because there are oftentimes, when you look at, let's say you do have 2 children or 3 children, you have in your mind's eye who you think is the troublemaker. Like, you're human. Yes, you love all your children equally. Yes, yada yada, we've all heard it. But if we're all being honest, every parent knows deep down, if there is a situation that's being discussed or brought up or perhaps brought to light, there's a little nagging in the back of your head going, is that really true? Because they're usually telling fibs about this, or that, and then it's a judgment call on your part. And we're encouraging you to investigate. Give your children the benefit of the doubt, regardless if they are the ones that are usually fibbing or tattletaling or nagging or being the one that's just a little bit too outspoken or something. Give them the benefit of the doubt, because this could be the one time that they're being honest in their corner.
Yeah, and we're not saying, if a child one of your children comes to you and says, Johnny touched me and I'm not comfortable with that you go roaring down the hallway and, pack Johnny's suitcase and chuck him out on the front lawn. We're talking about, having conversations and having open conversations with your children. Like Athena said, do your investigation, ask questions, maybe observe the interactions between those 2 children much, 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 much more closely than you normally would for, the next 24 hours. But we're absolutely not saying, when a child comes to you and reports this, to overreact as well.
Yeah. We're not saying that you should physically, abuse your child, obviously, if you catch them doing something that's inappropriate in a sexual manner. I mean, there are age-appropriate consequences, or I don't want to say punishment, but there are age-appropriate consequences when things happen, in your family. So, this is such a delicate topic. If you're just tuning in, we're talking about the topic of sibling sexual abuse, and it's the topic that we have this week during our 2 Twitter chats as well as our live broadcast. And, if you have some comments or even questions, we're willing to bet that even if you're not tweeting out right now, that we're going to get some emails and some comments or some inquiries on this topic, and we are more than open to receiving your comments and concerns. And even if you have other topics that you'd like us to discuss in future episodes and future Twitter chats, please feel free to go to traumarecoveryuniversity.com, click on the tab that says downloadables, and just for being here, we would like to give you complimentary access to our entire library of downloadable resources. And I'm Athena Moberg, and this is Bobby Parrish, and we're just really excited you're here. And Bobby, I'm watching our feed, our hashtag No More Shame feed,
Uh-huh.
and I don't have any questions or anything this week. Normally, we have some pretty vocal participants. So I know this topic is really, really delicate, you guys, and it could be the first time you've ever had memories of your sibling, or things that had gone on, and you could be the survivor, you could be the perpetrator. Either way, we encourage you. We are a safe place for you to discuss these things, and we want to be open to whatever it is that you need from us. So please communicate with us. Either tweet us at Truth Is Hers or at Athena Moberg, or reach out to us on email or on Facebook, and we would love to connect with you. And I know that we still have a little bit of our one page, Bobby, that
We do. We
um,
do. Let's see here. Let's go back.
yay!
Yay! When you have two children in your home and one has sexually abused the other, counseling is more than appropriate for both children. So I want to make sure that you hear that from us. The child who was victimized definitely needs help and support. But the child who victimized them also needs help and support to determine what it is that made them act out in that way, and how things can be changed now so they don't get horribly labeled, so they don't victimize anyone else. And I'm hoping that should this be something that happens in your home, that you don't hesitate to reach out to get help for both of your children. And it may not be easy to call a therapist and say, look, this is what I've got going on. But it is vital, absolutely vital, that both of your children, aside from any any punishment or correction or anything like that happens, any reports to the police, any criminal activity that goes on, both of your children need some intervention to sort through these things and figure out exactly what's going on. So, and that kind of takes us to this last part of the one page. Although sibling abuse may occur less frequently than other types of childhood sexual abuse, recovery follows a similar pattern, no matter the type of sexual abuse. So we're not here to say that there should be a whole separate recovery path for child sexual abuse recovery. At this point in my life and all the work that I've done with trauma survivors for the last 18 years, I have been able to integrate them very well into recovery programs oriented towards anyone who was abused as a child. So I feel pretty safe in telling you that you can follow this pretty much the same steps that we advise and that we promote for anyone who was sexually abused as a child. And the first one is to acknowledge that the abuse occurred. Obviously, you can't heal anything, mourn any kind of a loss, unless you at least at first acknowledge that the abuse occurred. And perhaps that's as simple as saying, okay, I used to put what happened between my brother and I down as normal childhood stuff. Or, he was just messing with me. But now I'm going to let myself, for the first time, acknowledge that I was sexually abused. It could be just that simple of making that shift in your mind. We're not saying that you have to tell anyone else. We're just saying that you, in your mind, in your heart, need to acknowledge what happened, and so that you can put your cards down on the table and be able to deal with them one at a time. And the second step is to mourn the losses that the abuse caused. I don't always see this step put in the recovery process for abuse survivors, but we lost a lot as a result of our abuse. Many of us didn't get that normal, join the soccer team, have fun with your friends on Saturdays kind of childhood. And so we have to mourn that loss that we didn't get to. It's not like you can go back. You can't go back to your childhood and have a do-over.
Yeah.
That's a lifetime permanent loss. You will never get it back. So you have to. I think you kind of have to mourn that. You have to grieve that. You have to grieve the fact that you didn't have a good relationship with your sibling. Athena and I talked about this earlier in the broadcast. She talked about it and said that, it's kind of hard to accept, not to accept is not the right word, it's kind of hard to see that happening between sibling sexual abuse because you have the vision of your sibling being your lifelong best friend, the one person who always has your back. The person that you can always do something with on a Saturday or a Sunday when you're bored and you need a buddy. For some people, they didn't have that. Instead, their sibling terrorized them. And you have to mourn that loss. That's a huge loss. And it's the same when I tell, survivors of incest, okay, you didn't have the father or the mother that you deserved. You didn't have the father or the mother that you craved. That's a loss. That's a huge loss. And you have to mourn that in order to move forward. So don't forget to put that in your recovery process. And then you have to heal the damage from your abuse that can be healed.
I was going to ask you about this one, Bobby.
Okay.
I know we always go back and forth and sort of do like real life, like what does this look like? How do you act this out in real life, right?
Right.
Some steps to healing the damage from abuse, especially if it is from a sibling. You could. We already mentioned, going to counseling, perhaps doing some trauma recovery coaching, journaling, perhaps writing a letter, the things you wished what do you wish would have been different? Even just asking yourself, what do you wish would have been different between you and your sibling, between you and your parents? How do you wish things would have played out? Ooh,
right.
My
screen changed, didn't it? There.
Sorry. You go. That's okay. I'm like, hey, hi, MailChimp. Part of healing the damage from your sexual abuse, especially if it was from one of your siblings, is really allowing yourself to process the feelings that you wish. The feelings you're having about what you wish would have been.
Exactly.
I wish I would have had a safe sibling. I wish I would have had the relationship with my sibling like my neighbors have together. They're best friends. They take pictures together. They share clothing. They go to parties together. They go to the football games together. They go shopping at the mall together. I wished I would have had that. I wish my parents would have responded when I told them what was happening. I wish they would have believed me. Those are just some ways that you can heal the damage from your abuse.
Right.
Bobby, what are some other ways that you can heal that damage?
Well, you know what? We talk often about healing the very core of the damage. And usually in the very core of damage from sexual abuse are shame, guilt / self-blame, and low self-worth. And for some of us, that goes as far as to move all the way over into self-loathing. So you've got to go down and look at what do you believe about yourself because of the abuse. What do you believe about the world? If you believe that you are a bad person and the world is an unsafe place, your life is going to be pretty miserable. And you may be doing things like alcohol and drugs. You may be addicted to porn. You may be a shopper. You may be experiencing some pretty significant depression. All of those things are symptoms of those beliefs that you have because of what happened to you. So you need to go back and you need to heal that damage. You need to learn the truth, which is that you have nothing to be ashamed of. If you did not do anything wrong, the shame belongs to your perpetrator and not you. So you can ditch the shame. And believe me, I know it's easier said than done. It's a process. That you have nothing to feel guilty about. You were not to blame. Again, it wasn't your fault. And then self-worth. Okay, so maybe the abuse left you feeling like you were a bad person, and it happened to you because you did something wrong. And now that it's happened, you're broken forever. Not true. Absolutely not true. Your self-worth is your birthright. You have as much value now as you did the day you were born. Nothing can ever take that away. So you have to go back and you have to right those beliefs and embrace and learn the truth in order to heal that damage. The next one is to accept the after effects that cannot be healed. And I always include this because I think it's erroneous to tell victims that they can heal all their damage. And poof, their life will be wonderful and green, and cows will come and kittens will burst forth, and marshmallows will fall from the sky. It's not going to happen, especially not right away. But you can have a really good life. It's just that there may be some limitations from that point forward. And we've talked before about things like damage that happens to your brain because you were involved in an abusive situation that lasted over a period of time, especially between the ages of about 4 and 6. That can damage your brain, and you will have lasting impairments in your executive functioning. At some point, you have to learn to accept that and find some ways around that and learn to cope with that. One of the lasting effects in my life is depression. I'm in the middle, I'm in my 5th episode of major depression, and it's lasted for 12 years. The odds are against me that I'm ever going to get it to go into remission. And if I do get it to go into remission, I'm 99.9% likely to have another episode. Okay. I've accepted that reality. I do the best I can to manage my depression with medication and self-care and therapy. I don't beat myself up because I'm depressed. I don't blame myself because I'm depressed. It is an after effect of what happened to me as a child, and I learned to cope with it, and I've accepted it the best that I can. So that's what we mean when we say accept the after effects that cannot be healed.
I have another one that I would like to discuss.
Oh, I love it.
Or bring up, Bobby.
Yes, yes.
And I know we're coming towards the end here. We're going to be finishing up this one page and then giving you our contact information and then ways you can connect with us and join some of our discussions and our live broadcasts. But one of the things I wanted to bring up, Bobby, one of the things that cannot be healed is sometimes we as adults who survived significant childhood abuse, especially sexual abuse, but this goes for any type of abuse from the time, like Bobby was saying, when you're really, really young. Oftentimes, even as adults, we catch ourselves saying things like, well, gosh, I just don't understand. Like maybe if they knew that they were literally causing permanent damage to my brain, maybe if they knew the significant damage that they were doing to me, they would have done it differently. Maybe they would have changed. Maybe my relationship with them will be better now. Maybe I should just give them a call. Maybe those what ifs and the magical thinking of like
Right.
really trying to unbake the cake.
Right.
That's natural for you as an adult to have those feelings. It is natural for anyone in the entire world to sort of, well, maybe if they knew, maybe if my mom knew that all those things she was doing to me over the period of years was going to mess me up so bad into my 40s, 50s, and 60s, I just wish she would have known, because maybe she wouldn't have done that. Chances are that's not the case. Chances are they didn't really care, and that's why it happened. Especially if it was your abuser. Now, I'm not talking about your sibling. I'm very, 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 I'm assuming, Bobby, the numbers on this would be something very, very small. Like, I'm not saying that siblings, unless, of course, your sibling was perhaps sociopathic or had psychopathic, tendencies all the way into
Right.
adulthood, and
Right.
you're looking back at that.
Right.
I'm not suggesting that your sibling premeditatedly wanted to destroy you all the way into adulthood. That's not what I'm supposing. Very few cases, I'm sure that would be, small percentage. But one of the lasting effects of the abuse, regardless of where it came from, is really magically wishing that maybe if this was different or that was different or this was different or that was different, then it all wouldn't have happened and it all would have just been better. You
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
that is that's I mean, that's something that a lot of us, Bobby, wouldn't you agree that that's something that
Oh,
just doesn't really ever go away? That doesn't really go
no.
away.
No, I haven't had any contact with my abuser for um I think we're talking about 20 years now. Because I reached the point where I knew that he wasn't going to change. Um, do I wish it were different? Even after 20 years of having no contact with him, do I wish that he would show up on my doorstep and say, "Oh my word, I'm so sorry"? Um, I'm so much older now, and I'm wiser, and I realize that what I did was an awful thing. And can you forgive me? And can we, at your pace and at your choosing, move forward and try and build a relationship? Oh, absolutely. Um, but as both a therapist and a trauma coach, and a 49-year-old woman, do I think that's going to happen? No. But that doesn't mean that there's not that small part of me that's ever going to let go of that hope.
Yeah, I mean, it's just part of our human nature. I mean,
I
where
think so.
there, well, because when hope is completely gone, then it's very, very, very difficult for people to
Mhm.
survive in an environment where there is no hope. So
Yeah.
that little glimmer of hope that we really, 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 really wish was going to happen. Like, there's nothing. We're not telling you to paint yourself some rainbows and hope against hope and torture yourself some more. But we're just saying that that could be one of the things that you can accept that isn't really going to go away, and it doesn't make you delusional or weird or bad.
No.
It's just part of our human nature, and you can't expect yourself to just like magically poof and you're fine.
Right.
you know?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. You can't. Um, and the last thing on our one page was to learn new healthy behaviors. So perhaps you learned that lie that what happened when you were a child was your fault and therefore it makes you a bad person. And so
Hmm.
because you believed you were a bad person, you did things like drink too much alcohol or engage in promiscuous behavior or believe you weren't worthy of going to college. And so you didn't go to college, and now you're working a dead-end job because you never believed you could be anything other than that. All of those self-defeating, self-destructive behaviors that you did because you thought you weren't worth anything, you can learn new ones now. And you can realize that you have much, 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 much more worth and capability than you ever imagined that you would. And you can learn how to communicate your thoughts and your feelings. Um, you can learn how to do things and make choices that lead you to happiness. Um, and you can learn some things that will help you be at peace so that you're not living the rest of your life in pain. Been there, done that. No fun. And
Yeah.
it can get better.
It
It can get
can.
better.
It can
Um,
get better.
I
I
talked
was
about that.
talking,
I talked too much. Go ahead.
what?
I said I talked too much, so I didn't forget my other screen shares put up.
Oh no, no, you don't ever talk too much, Bobby. Are you kidding me? The very, very, very last part of our one page down at the very bottom, if you're following along, is us loving you, telling you, please, please, please do not remember to be gentle with yourself. This topic is very delicate and
Yeah.
painful. And if you are a survivor of sibling sexual abuse, or you were the perpetrator and you just didn't know, you were young and gosh, and you feel bad about it, and now you are wanting to build relationships, whatever, please reach out to us. Bobby is about ready to put up a screen and let you know how to reach us. And we
Yep.
just want to remind you that you guys are our priority. You're the reason we do this every week, and we want to remind you to be gentle with yourself, because these topics that we talk about can be very triggering, and we want you to be gentle with yourself.
Absolutely. Practice self-care.
Yes.
Yay, self-care. Um, oh, I am having,
It
and
looks
this is the how to
perfect.
reach us. Okay. Is it good now?
It looks perfect. It looks
Okay.
great. So
Okay.
if you guys are tuning in live, we have our page up. It says reach out to us. And the way you can reach Bobby or myself, you can reach us on Twitter, because we absolutely love the Twitterverse. And Bobby is at Truth Is Hers. And I am at Athena Moberg. And you can reach us collaboratively at Trauma Recovery U. And as you know, our Roku channel is called Trauma Recovery University. So is our YouTube channel. So is everything. So you can also reach us at nomoreshameproject@gmail.com if you want to reach us on email. Or you can reach Bobby at bobbylparish@gmail.com. And you can reach me, Athena, at athenamoberg.com. Bobby and I both have our own websites for our trauma recovery coaching business practice. We both have private practices. We both work collaboratively together. You can go to bobbyparish.com. You can go to athenamoberg.com if you want to learn more about us individually. Or please find us at traumarecoveryuniversity.com, where you can find out about all kinds of wonderful stuff. And I know we're on the Reach Out to Us Today page, but I want to throw a little shout out in here and plug our Discovering True. That was
Yay.
our anthology that was published this past November with a ton of brave survivors, you guys out there. And Discovering True, I hope I'm not misspeaking or speaking too fast or overstepping my bounds, Bobby, but I believe we just got picked up by Book Trope.
Yep, we did. We did. We now have a publisher. So how's
Yeah.
that? So
Um,
they're going to republish under their brand the anthology from last November, and then they're going to pick up every the ones from this coming year forward.
which is amazing.
It is.
So survivors out there, you guys, hello. You are the reason we're here. And if you have a story of you as a child being sexually abused, or if you have a story about your journey through life and recovery, a way that you have discovered that being in community with other people has helped you, or even being here involved in community with us has helped you, or just a story in general about your recovery process or your journey of being an adult survivor of childhood sexual abuse, we would love for you to go to our website, traumarecoveryuniversity.com, and find the tab that talks about the 2015 anthology. And we would love for you to submit. You can submit anytime between now and the end of June. And we will publish again during No More Shame November. And again, thank you, Book Trope. We are honored and humbled and excited.
Yes. Yay!
Yay!
It's a testament to all the wonderful writers out there
Yeah.
who have stories to share and want to share their voice and share their truth, because it helps other survivors and it helps raise awareness of what sexual abuse, childhood sexual abuse does to people. So it's all a good thing.
Yeah. Hey, Bobby, as we close out this week, because we're a couple of minutes over, do you want to put up that the page that tells them what time our weekly chats are and our Roku channel and our YouTube channel and all that?
Yes. Oops, wrong one.
You're so awesome. Thank you for always doing the screen shares.
I'm trying to be techie.
You are techie. Come on. Don't even joke.
Let's see. Here we go. Now let's do present to everyone.
Yay!
Yay!
So we're here. It's on Mondays here, 10 a.m. Pacific time in the U.S., 6 p.m. in the U.K. Using the hashtag CSAQT, you can join our Twitter chat, or right now, over on the right-hand side of the page, you're watching us on Roku, or you're watching us on YouTube or Google+, and that's Mondays, 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 Eastern, or if you're in the UK, you're a total rock star watching us at 2 in the morning. So we love you. But tomorrow, Tuesday, we have Sex Abuse Chat. And that is at 6 p.m. Pacific time, 9 p.m. Eastern in the US, or it's at 2 a.m. on Wednesday morning in the UK. Just use the hashtag Sex Abuse Chat and just say hi, or follow the discussion, or just ask if you can join one of our Facebook groups. Join our community of survivors. And you can always watch any of our videos from our entire library of resources 24/7, 365 at bit.ly/trauma recovery U. So we just love you guys. You guys are the reason we do this. You're the reason we're here every single week. And we wouldn't be here without you. And we listen to you. You guys help design the website. You guys help design the topics. You guys are the ones that tell us what you need from us.
Yes. So if you have a chat topic, don't hesitate to let us know if it's something that you want to talk about. If we can't do that topic, or we need to broaden it or narrow it, we'll help you, do that so it comes to be a topic that we think everyone will benefit from.
Yeah, we can tailor, you have an idea, we can tailor it and work with you on being able to talk about your topic, or we can point you to a previous episode. And there's probably a chance, Bobby, don't you think, that we're going to end up maybe doing one of our other topics again, especially if things come up in the news, or we'll have different discussions. So
absolutely. All
right. Gosh, I think I remembered everything. Thanks for listening on 1412 Radio Network. If you're listening from 1412 Radio Network, made possible by Two Guys in a Bible. If you're listening on iTunes or Stitcher, iHeartRadio, Spreaker, any of those podcast platforms, we're super excited that you're here. Please go to our website, traumarecoveryuniversity.com, and get complimentary access to our whole library of downloadable printable resources by finding the tab that says downloadables. And we will see you next week.
Good night, everybody. See you again.
Bye.